Good morning to you all, and thank you very much to Florence and the EPMA for inviting Ladbrokes to speak to you this morning. I'm going to kick off with a brief video, make my life easy, as follows.
So there's this guy, right? The believer. He likes his odds long and his wins big. Risk would be his middle name if it wasn't already Douglas. And Generous John, first to the bar, last in the cab. He knows betting's a team sport. And who better to have on your team than Brightside here? If he was a battery, he'd be positive at both ends. And then there's the professor, calculator with a beard. He knows all the stats and facts and reckons he can work the whole thing out. Which winds this man up no end. Where's the fun in form, he says. When you know, you know you know. You know? They are the dreamers, the glory seekers, the back page philosophers, the Wednesday night warriors. They are the have-a-go heroes of Saturday afternoon. They are the betting men. And this is the Ladbrokes Live.
Good. So thankfully, when I was invited to speak at this forum, we happened to have these ads which were just recently produced and provided a useful prop really to indicate that at Ladbrokes we're very focused on the fact that we have a very disparate customer base, different people betting on different things for different reasons, sometimes socializing together, but very different customers, and we as an operator have to be absolutely focused on that. So hopefully that ad illustrates it. What it also illustrates to me, and certainly I'm the MD of the Belgium business, and when I looked at the ad, I thought it was very amusing, but I also, my first thought was, well, unfortunately that's not going to work in the Belgian market, because funnily enough, even though there's maybe 4 or 5, probably 10, 20 categories of punters in the UK, those punters are largely different to the punters in Belgium and in a whole variety of other countries. So
it all started with a small dispute over who's shouting lunch. So Mickey says, well, I'm shouting the limo then. Then Eddie says, well, I'm shouting the flight. Then Tommy says, well, I'll shout the hotel. Slight problem, lads. Room service. Then Nigel shows up and says, don't worry, lads, I'll take care of this tab. Ladbrokes Visa card. Bet anywhere, shout everywhere.
So that's our Australian ad. So picking up again on some of the same themes, but adapting it to the Australian market. And really, again, it's just reflecting the point that for any business with global aspirations, you have to tailor your brand, your product offering, the way you approach your customers to every different jurisdiction. And then within these jurisdictions, you need to be conscious of a whole variety of cultural factors, what people like to bet on, what resonates with them, and so on. So within any individual country, as I think we saw for France and indeed for Sweden, it's not straightforward. When you look at the global landscape, it's even more complicated. So we at Ladbrokes, we have a global business. That said, as the regulatory landscape globally evolves, we're focusing on those markets where we can establish reasonable market share, ideally both through retail and digital in a regulated market. So we have Andrew here, who's from the UK. He's very different to Sean from my native land, who are interested in other football teams, are interested in different sports, and react very differently. And again, you take the first ad that I had, even though the ad is in English, in an Irish market, and we didn't run it in our Irish business, that ad just wouldn't resonate because it's a British ad. Similarly, we have Jan here, who's probably from the Flemish part of Belgium, from Flanders. Belgium's even more complicated because we've got Flanders, Wallonia, 2 different languages. We have to treat customers in different ways. Denmark again, Australia, Spain. In all these countries, very different customer segments. So I guess how do we approach it, and how do we tailor our approach? I guess, and hearing the two previous speakers, I appreciate it. It's a challenge for many of the racing operators here, but in so much as you're very much product driven. But for us, really, it's about the customer and it's about entertainment. So we're in a global market, global customers, and we're in the broad entertainment business. And ultimately, it's our job to try and fit whatever product entertains that specific customer, right across retail, right across digital. And being quite honest with you, we tend to be fairly product agnostic. So, from a certain perspective, and it's certainly the case in the UK, where there's been a sort of decline in market share in horse racing. I've seen it in our Belgian business, which up until very recently was hugely dependent on horse racing, and really over a period of months we've seen that shift quite dramatically. So, ultimately, as an operator, as a commercial operator, we have to find the product that works for our customers. We're somewhat agnostic, but also I think the advantage is by capturing that sort of broader entertainment spend, well then you've got, as was said earlier, you've got the opportunity to cross-sell different product sets. So again, taking my parochial example of our Belgian business, where we've seen year-on-year declines in horse racing for quite some time, albeit it's accelerated more recently. Our hope is that by bringing in new products, by launching digital, by doing a variety of things, we bring more footfall into the shops. And those people mightn't come into the shops in the first instance to bet on horse racing, but horse racing is the great virtue that it's a product that's on all day. They're customers who might go in for football, for example, tends to be on in the evening. They go into the shop in the afternoon, there's horse racing on, and they migrate over to it. So I think if there's one insight from a commercial operator, it's that by having a variety of products available, I think there's a real opportunity to for all products to grow and to benefit together. So more specifically, in terms of customer segmentation, how do we approach it? Because really I'm representing ladbrokes International, I don't have detailed statistics in terms of our customer breakdown and so on, but just a few principles that I wanted to put forward today. And the first one, an extremely important principle, is to be platform agnostic. And I think there's an important distinction between, most people have got online platforms, most of the operators here. A lot of people talk about multi-channel. Platform agnostic is not multi-channel. Very often what you have is you've got a retail business being built up, you have a digital business being built up. And I think really if you're focused on the customer, you have to be able to offer all of the different channels, the different touch points. But you need to recognize that many customers, and the higher value customers, but an increasing proportion of customers are going to be cross-channel. It mightn't be cross-channel at the transactional level, it might be just for information, to check your V75 results. But that's the world that we're living in. So really segmenting business lines, to my mind, isn't helpful. You need to be thinking about the customer base, I guess a jurisdiction, and thinking about your retail, desktop, mobile on an integrated basis. The second key element, which I'm sure many of you spend a lot of time thinking about, and we certainly do, and it's often a serious challenge with, in particular with legacy systems, but it's to bind your technology. The only way that you can be properly platform or channel agnostic is through having properly bound technology and exchange of data between your online, between your retail, where possible. So just a few very simple illustrations here. The first card here on your left, that's a card that we've launched in Australia, which is a full payments card linked to our digital business, but you can also go to a retail outlet, take out cash, put cash back in, and so on. And from a data perspective, it's fascinating as well, because not only do we get data in terms of what people are betting on, but also their other trends, activities, habits. You take a mobile phone here. In all our shops in the UK, we offer Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi for our shop customers if they sign up to that. We can then track a lot of data. We can target promotions to them. We can know when they're in and out of the shops, even if they're not transacting via their mobile phone. The reward card here on the left, our odds-on card, is something that we launched many years ago in the UK, primarily a retail product initially, and then it was broadened out across to gaming machines that we have in the shops. And again, it gives us extremely rich data in terms of customer usage patterns, visit regularity, and it also gives us a huge opportunity to cross-sell to customers, to upsell, to reward their loyalty. So again, that's something that's been very successful to us. You know, I probably should have started off by saying that the genesis for all of this customer segmentation is obviously the web. You know, we've been operating digital sites for probably since the late 90s, I guess, and that's really where it all obviously started out. You've got fantastically rich customer data there, and in order to properly mine your customer database, it's absolutely essential to be able to segment it, have tailored promotions. And, you know, off the top of my head that I can think of, in any individual online business that we have, we typically have upwards of several dozen customer segments based on different product sets, profiles, and so on. So it's really the bread and butter of the digital business, and the challenge to us, and I suspect to most other operators, is to broaden that out and integrate it with retail. The last tip.
You know what that means? It's Latin. Means know thyself. I'm going to let you in on a little secret.
So, know thyself, know thy customer. Client nasce. And again, a fairly obvious statement, but really it's the only way that you can be successful, certainly in digital businesses and to an increasing extent in retail businesses today. And it carries through right across the sort of cycle of client acquisition, retention, and reactivation. The one-size-fits-all approach to marketing, to offering a product to customers, just doesn't work anymore. And indeed, you know, it's not the expectation. Just picking up again on the Matrix. There's another scene in that movie where he walks by or runs by a shop window, and the person in the shop, or the animation in the shop window, recognizes him and targets a piece of marketing at him. So, you know, that was done in a sci-fi movie, The Matrix. Today that technology is available. It's being developed by the likes of Apple and other technology companies. Some of us, probably I would say many, if not most of us, find that particularly intrusive. It's, you know, obviously very personalized, targeted marketing. But I would say the next generation of customers, to be honest with you, just consider it to be the norm. The next generation of customers are people who, if they watch TV, they're watching digital TV, they're fast forwarding through the ads, they're on Facebook most of the time. All of their Facebook advertising is specifically targeted. And so for them, I suspect, for right or wrong, the reality is that's what they're used to. And so non-targeted marketing will appear strange to them. So if you've got the opportunity to do targeted marketing, that's where you have to segment, and really focus on that, whether it's, as I said, by jurisdiction, customer type, and so on. So the end result of all that customer segmentation is ultimately better business for everyone. I think the previous presentations touched on the logic for doing a lot of this stuff. In our business, it's about just bringing more customers through the doors, whether they're digital or retail doors. And the beauty of customer segmentation is that it allows us to get a much better return on investment in terms of our marketing. You know, by and large, might be exceptions, but certainly for us, at the moment in most of our countries, we've got a relatively specific client base. They're mostly interested in sports, they're mostly male. That, on a macro level, allows us to target them. And then going beyond that, you look at individual fan bases, who follows which clubs, what sports, and so on. And you can really develop targeted and relevant advertising campaigns. And then you bring that into your promotion. So really the idea is to just have a continuous conversation with your customer. And you can have that conversation if you're talking to a relevant customer base. You know, so if I take this stage by way of example, you know, I'm talking to whatever 100 of you, there's a few of you who've probably disengaged, it's absolutely normal. If I'm having a one-on-one conversation with somebody, it's a lot more difficult for them to disengage. And exactly the same principle applies in terms of the kind of promotions that you should be targeting to your customers. And really it's about developing a conversation with them. And you put those two things together ultimately, and it's where the vast majority of our discretionary spend is. It's marketing, it's promotions, it's bonuses. It creates better business. You just get better retention, better return on investment in terms of marketing. And all of that is ultimately part of a cycle where you're learning continuously about your customers, you're segmenting, resegmenting, trying new things in terms of marketing, but all of it is done on a granular level. So I haven't given it a huge amount of thought in terms of other industry sectors where there might be different lessons, but as far as I'm concerned, certainly for us, as a global international betting business, really the core of what we're about is customer segmentation and using whatever tools we have at our disposal to do that more accurately and more successfully. So finishing up, you've seen the countries that we're present in at the moment, and generally speaking, we're very happy to talk to potential partners in relation to you know, working with us where we can successfully share our know-how. So thank you very much.